our part two. And in the prior part, we've talked about how we persuade people to have a change in their attitude. What are the two routes of persuasion? And we talked about the link between attitude and behavior, particularly the phenomenon of cognitive dissonance, where there is a contrast between two, or when someone holds two contradictory cognitions. So now we are going to move towards understanding others, yeah, in the context of their relationship with other people, such as uh, how we perceive others, what expectations and roles do we set about other people, um, what brings about prejudice, discrimination, stereotypes, and stigma, and all those other experiences that we have in our society. So we begin by understanding what others are like, and this is a function of our social cognition. Yeah. So these are the cognitive processes where we try to make sense of what other people, or we try to make sense of the motivation of other people, and how we perceive other people. Yeah. So our social cognitions is composed of a constellation of schemas. No? Our schemas are sort of like mental boxes or mental sets where we categorize people in certain um, boxes or classifications. Let's take, for example, we have a schema for a teacher. And when we say teacher, we all have these expectations of what a teacher should and how a teacher should behave. We have a schema for mother, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. And our relationships are driven by our schemas about the roles that other people fulfill in uh, our relationship with them. Let's take, for example, we have a schema of a, say, Mm, a boyfriend. So, should your boyfriend be chatting other people? Is that okay? Or chatting someone intimately? Yeah? Or say, should you accept your boyfriend if uh, he watches pornography? Yeah? Would it be changing if it's, say, a your boyfriend is Skyping, may nag-i-Skype pa ba ngayon? You know, messenger call with someone in a sexy way, it's still sort of like pornography, di ba? Kasi may sex element. Pero it's still virtual, pero interactive na siya. So it's like interactive pornography but with a real person. But a real person pa rin naman yung pornography. So what I'm trying to say is that we each have our own boxes of how we think people should behave, and we behave in ways where we try to fit or respond to our expectations of other people, because we expect our mothers to be caring, because that's the schema we have for our mother. Then we also act in ways where we express our desire to be cared for. Yeah. How do these cognition schemas form? Paano sila? How do they develop? Well, this often happens through the process of impression formation, where an individual organizes information about another person and creates an overall impression about that person. So you might encounter someone at the road, uh, wearing all black, anong tawag niyo doon? Eyeliner, black eye shade, black lipstick, studs, multiple piercings, and then you would say, hmm. So you have a schema that where that person fits into that schema, maybe an emo person, a rebellious person, or I don't know. It depends for each of us. So my point is that our brain is a constantly categorizing machine where it tries to put people into boxes to make our lives simpler. Yeah. So because we have these schemas, and the development of our schemas is often based on our early exposure with other people, such as in our, overall impression, we make judgments about others based on the traits that we observe. So someone who is in the jeep and then palihog sa bayad, unya dili siya mag-abot sa imong bayad, you'd feel, unsa man siya walay pakisam. So, you're making a conclusion about the person as having walang pakisama as the central trait in that particular situation. So these are very thin slices of the Bible because it's just like a few seconds, maybe minutes, but we make a total judgment of people based on just a very small fragment of the time that we interacted with them. How do we come up, or what's the underlying process that happens when we develop impressions about other people? We call that one the attribution process. Our attribution process is uh, it's like our interpretation of why people behave this way. So let's take for example, if you meet a stranger and then the stranger was about to smile. Alam niyo yun, yung parang malapit siyang ngumiti. So ikaw din, because you thought that person was smiling at you, you smiled like a full-blown smile. And then you realize that the person is not looking at you, but the person behind you. So you feel embarrassed, or maybe you would interpret that person as bastos. No? So our attribution process is like how we infer the motivation of people based on the impressions that we've had, uh, and it's contingent or dependent on our cognitive resources. Yeah, it's like um, nakita nimo ang imong friend dito sa mall and then you smiled, but because for some reason your friend did not smile, but because you were rushing, you did not think much about it. So you just, maybe there's a different reason. But if you're not rushing, you're in a leisurely pace and you're expecting people, your friends particularly, to, smile back at you. But that friend did not smile back. So you would ruminate, hala, ngano kaya nga wala siya nag-smile? Basi nakabalo siya sa kumangkipang buhat sa iyahang uyab, or basin suko siya sa ako kay wala na ako'y nabuhat nga mali. So you're going to ruminate about it. You're going to chew that thought because you have a lot of cognitive resources. You have a lot of attention to spare. Yeah. So it goes something like this. You notice an event, yeah, such as when we'll go to an example later on. You notice an event, you make an interpretation of the event, and you form an explanation of why those people behave in that way in that particular event. If you have a lot of time to spare or a lot of cognitive resources to spare, you'll think more about it and maybe think about or create a more reasonable explanation of the motivation of that person. But if you don't have uh, attention or cognitive resources, you would immediately jump to conclusions. And what's the most available, easiest way that you would use to explain people's behavior? Let's say, for example, I'd like to why don't people wear masks in public spaces during the pandemic? Yeah. Or maybe, why do people not stay at home despite the mandated lockdown? Yeah. Yeah, alam niyo yun. There's an idea going around saying that kasi matigas ang ulo, mga bastos, walang walang concern sa iba, mga Pinoy na walang disiplina, mga ganun. So that's our explanation. No? That's our explanation of why people don't wear masks or don't stay at home. So if we look at that, there's a heuristic or a shortcut occurring there. If you recall in our cognitive intelligence na topic, we were talking about availability heuristic. Yeah, yeah. What's the most available explanation when you see people who are not wearing mask in public during the pandemic? Your most available explanation would be kasi matigas ulo niya, ayaw niya magsuot. When people at the malls, leisurely doing things, bakit di siya nasa bahay? Kasi walang disiplina. Is there an alternative explanation to that? Yeah. So I'm bringing this conversation to the theory of attribution. This is a theory of personality that um, tries to clarify how we make inferences about the motivation of other people's behavior or what causes other people's behavior. It could be a situational cause, or a situational factor, or it could be a dispositional factor. Kasakay ka sa jeep, natapakan niya yung paa mo. What's the explanation? To what do you attribute that? Ay kasi bastos, walang pakiramdam. Yun. So you're making an inference based on the disposition of that person because you're making the cause of the behavior is something that is internal in the trait, in the personality of that individual. As opposed to, ay kasi nagmamadali siya, meron siyang pamilya ng ospital, kaya. So you're looking at a situational attribution. Yeah, yeah. So um, there's what we would call uh, like say, in your relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Um, you get you borrow your partner's phone, and then a message comes in, and then kumusta ka na, smiley smiley kiss kiss. How would you explain that? Because you have two options there. You could either make a dispositional attribution, you would say nga manluloko ang iyong partner, or you could use a situational attribution where you would say, maybe this person is a family member or what. Yeah, yeah. So you could either that's we call that distress reinforcing attribution. Kasi you're quicker to pick the most distressful attribution, the most distressful explanation for you. Murag gi-torture lang ni mo kaugalingon ka. Pwede man utang ang imong option is to explain it in a different way. But why would you explain it in a way that would create distress for you? So that's a distress enhancing attribution as opposed to a distress reducing attribution. No, that's what usually happens in relationships for vague behaviors. Kaya we admittedly, we can't read people's minds, man. Diba? The reality of that is we don't know what's happening in people's minds. So if absent the certainty, we are given the option to make an attribution that is based on the situation or in the disposition of the, yeah. Halimbawa, may tumawag sa'yo na uh, the the say cashier did not uh, let's say the cashier did not smile at you. Yeah, and then isipin mo kaagad, ay, walang customer service, walang modo. Hindi ka man lang binati ng good morning, 'di ba? So your attribution there is on the disposition, sa katangian niya, sa characteristic niya. As opposed to maybe she's tired, she's been sitting at it for the whole day, and she has a family problem. So you actually have two options there how to look at the situation. But you pick an attribution that would make you more distressed. And that is the funny thing with people. So why would we choose an attribution that would make us more distressed? What? Yeah. But anyway, it depends on the personality of the individual now, and our prior experience as well. No, so it varies. I'm not making a condemnation if you're making a dispositional attribution because that makes sense. I mean, it makes you stay away from people who would have negative intentions about you. But on the other side of that, I would bring, I would be skeptical about the accuracy of your attribution. Yeah. So we have these attribution biases, the sources of the errors in our inferences about the motivation or the causes of other people's behavior. One is the halo effect, yeah, where a person's initial positive traits would be inferred to other characteristics. Like say, um, kasi mabait siya sa'yo, ang tingin mo na sa kanya sa totality ng kahit na anong gawin niya, kasi may impression ka na mabait siya, would be mabait siyang tao. So it's like it's spread out to all the other behaviors of the person because that person helped you one time and then you think that that person will be helpful for you at most times if not all times. So that's halo effect. The other one is assumed similarity, where we think that um, because that is how you think, that is how other people would think also. So the world is a projection of our own thoughts. Like if you go back to say messenger, your partner, and then there is a message sending kiss, and then if that were you, you'd be concluding that you're in a relationship, but your partner is not you. So it might be an altogether completely different na reason. But we can see only others through our own eyes. So oftentimes, we see our own eyes first before we see others. Okay, there's a self-serving bias also, where we try to attribute personal success to internal dispositions as opposed to external factors. Pero medyo iba 'to sa Pilipino, eh, kasi kapag Pilipino, halimbawa nakapasa ng board exam, um, the culturally acceptable response is, "Ay sinuwerte lang," gano'n. The person would not claim nga, "Ay kasi magaling ako, naghanda ako," gano'n. There's an element of, externalizing the cause of the success. Second one is the fundamental, or the fourth one rather, is the fundamental attribution error, where people would make attributions about others' behaviors based on their dispositions. Kanina, di ba, it's disposition versus situation na attribution. Here, the fundamental attribution bias happens when we think of people nga tamad, kasi nakahiga lang sa kwarto buong maghapon, pero yun pala, may ibang situational factors that are in play, or we interpret people who don't wear mask as irresponsible, eh yun pala walang pambili ng mask. Yeah. So we look at people's behaviors. Essentially, we tend to make, if we're trying to explain our own behavior, if it's a success, we internalize it. If it's a failure, we pick an external attribute, an external causal factor. Pero it's the opposite way if it's other people. If it's a bad behavior, we look at them as we look at the behavior as caused by their disposition. Pero if it's a good behavior, we say na, ay, kasi baka merong benefit, kasi ganito siya. We don't think about it in dispositions. Na? It's cute how we do that. And there's a cultural element there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In certain cultures, such as Asian cultures, we are more sensitive with how we are connected with other people. And so we would attribute other people's behaviors in terms of the situation na for Asian. Kasi our ecology is farming, so you could not farm if you're not sensitive of what happens with the farms of your neighbors. So what happens is kailangan sabay-sabay kayo mag-farm para yung mga pests would not be going to your farm only. So we have evolved a kind of thinking where we are always looking at our neighbor for our own behaviors. So if we explain our neighbor's behavior, we would think of it as caused by the situation. While in Greece, in individualist na mga cultures such as US, they would explain people's behavior more on the disposition and the internal characteristics rather than caused by the situation. Yeah, this is very nice. I mean, you could bring this discussion into a lot of contexts, a lot of behaviors, and a lot of problems and conflicts that we've had. That's it for now.